I think we can get started.
Okay,
Thanks,
perfect.
Leslie.
I'm going to stop the presentation so I can see who's here. Welcome everyone. Thank you for connecting today with us. My name is Carmen Martinez. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the University of the Free State. And I'm here with Prof. Melanie Walker. So if you want to say something, yeah.
Just that I'm delighted to be joining everybody this afternoon. Well, afternoon for us.
Yeah, morning.
Yeah,
morning, afternoon. Okay, so we just wanted to start asking what will be the best communication channels that will work for the whole group. We have heard that sometimes the transcription, the reading software of the laptop can get confusing reading the transcriptions and reading the chat. So we would like to know if you have a preferred way of communicating. Obviously, today the idea is that Melanie and I will be presenting. So it will be mainly talking, the both of us, and then when we come together for the activities, just discussions with all of you. But we wanted to know in regards to the chat function and in case of the use of reactions and so on. So if you have any specific preference, we will appreciate if you can write it in the chat, and then we will take it into consideration as we go through the session. So thank you for that. And I think if we're all in the same page, I think I'm going to start sharing my screen with the presentation, and then Melanie can start from there. Oops, there we go.
Okay, so welcome everybody to this workshop which is an introduction to digital storytelling. This is the outline of our workshop, but we're going to need to be flexible because the timing is very tight. So if we start to run out of time, we'll probably skip the session on introduction to story circle and scripting. So we just ask you to bear with us and to allow us that flexibility depending on how the timing goes. Next slide, thanks. Okay, so I'm just very briefly going to introduce the workshop. The core idea underpinning everything is that storytelling is very powerful. And we use in our projects this quote from Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie from her very well-known TED Talk in 2009, which is really worth watching if you've not seen it. It's on YouTube. And where she says, stories matter, many stories matter. Stories have been used to dispossess and to malign, but stories can also be used to empower and to humanize. Stories can break the dignity of a people, but stories can also repair that broken dignity. So we're interested in how stories can repair dignity and expand people's capabilities and agency. She's now no longer with us, but several years ago, there was a very famous pop singer in South Africa called Brenda Fassie, who said, you can never confirm a person. She says, people are always this, that, and more. They are never just one thing or just one story, which is what Adichie is saying as well. And then what digital storytelling makes clear is that people have and always have had agency, and they're always present and active in the process of their own making as historical agents. So we hope through the workshop that you'll see how important agency is and how central it is in storytelling. So why do we tell stories? There's a very nice quote from Eleanor Ox, who's an anthropologist, where she says, personal narrative is simultaneously born out of experience and gives shape to experience. We come to know ourselves as we use stories to apprehend experiences and navigate relationships with others. So central to digital storytelling is the story. It's simply that in this process, a digital form is used to bring the story alive. So in brief, before we show you an example of a digital story has these 4 key elements. There's a scripted layer, and the script is not very long, between 250 and 375 words. Then there's an audio layer. Once you've written your script and you're happy with how the script reads, you then narrate it. So you make a recording of the story, and you can then integrate it with sound, with music, with ambient noise, for example, the sound of traffic in the background or bird song, depending on what it is that your script is saying. So you've got the script, then you've got the narration, and the narration is really important in terms of rhythm and pace and pause and so on. Then you have a visual layer, and you'll need to choose around 20 images or less. You combine multiple images, you use some techniques to play with the images, to juxtapose them. You can have movement in a single image using zooming, panning, and so on. You can use text on the screen if you want. So there are lots of things you can do with this visual layer. And then the fourth element, which really runs through all of the others, is the pacing and the rhythm of the story. So it's not too fast, it's not too slow, but it's a script, it's sound, it's visual images, and it's pacing and rhythm to make the story go well. We want to show you an example of a digital story for those of you who are not familiar with this particular method. This comes out of a project of our own, which Carmen is going to tell you a bit more about a bit later. So this story was made by one of the students who is in our Youth Voices project.
In the first year of my Human Rights Master's class, I was so excited by a lecture on feminism as a human rights movement. I thoroughly enjoyed the session and left feeling emboldened. With a light tap on my shoulder, my Ghanaian classmate asked, "Do you know what we call women like you where I come from? We call them, I know my rights women." He proceeded to tell me that I should stop being a feminist if I ever wanted to get married. I was shocked. How could something that emboldened me be perceived as so problematic? I asked myself, am I a feminist? Scratch that. Am I an African feminist? What does feminism look like? Is it even relevant? My first recollection of feminism was from the smartest and most resilient women I know, the women in my family. Growing up in Zambia, a country thick with culture and wrapped in tradition, free thinking did not come easy to most. Not so for the women in my life. So this is what feminism looks like to me. Feminism is a woman overcoming hurdles of cultural and systematic oppression to make a future for her 7 children. It's defying all odds and single-handedly providing for her daughters, even though everyone around her exclaimed, 6 daughters? The sooner you marry them off, the faster you break even. It's a woman, my sister, bravely walking away, sorting through the colorful end of a marriage and triumphantly recreating herself in an